Hi there. Sunday's win at Fulham was not pretty. If we're honest, it was largely a very mediocre football match, won by a deflection and a fabulous goal line clearance by young sub Toby Collier. But our players showed great spirit. It was a much needed boost for Ruben Amorim. It lifts the Reds into 12th place, and that's all a welcome relief. But we all know that's far from good enough. Back-to-back wins does not hide the fact that this football club is in a real crisis. A crisis that's not going to be fixed until we get rid of the massive debts crippling this football club. That's the elephant in the room that won't go away, whatever narrative Ineos tries to spin through their preferred media outlets. I'll come back to that shortly, because the debt is paramount. But first, a few words about what's happening with our team and what I believe Ratcliffe's priorities are. It's ironic that this United side are much happier playing away from Old Trafford right now. As we saw at Fulham, our away support is just incredible. And it always looks like there's less pressure on the players when we play away from home. Amorim has already told us the players are nervous performing in our own backyard. That's no reason to support Ratcliffe's intent to knock down the Theatre of Dreams, by the way. But there's no denying Ruben Amorim's Reds consistently look more comfortable away from Old Trafford. It's ironic that one so-called fan who did not look comfortable at Craven Cottage on Sunday was Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe normally likes watching football in West London, but it's hardly surprising that Ratcliffe is now attracting real anger from United fans who feel let down by the catalogue of poor decisions he's been making, not least the increase in ticket prices. But that, as we all know, is only scratching the surface. Meantime, Ratcliffe's obsession with making a new Old Trafford the Wembley of the North is now what I think he means by putting the Manchester back in Manchester United. This, I believe, is what the whole Ratcliffe-Glazer partnership is all about. It's my belief that Ratcliffe's primary focus is on the massive money-making potential of regenerating the area around Old Trafford. His priority is not rebuilding the team or preserving the legacy and history of our football club. Right now, it's clear Ratcliffe's priority is to grow the commercial value of Manchester United Football Club by building a new 100,000-seater stadium on the Old Trafford footprint. The key to making that a massive money spinner is for the government to fund regenerating the area around Old Trafford. And this weekend's green light by the Labour government that will facilitate that happening is celebration time for Ratcliffe and the Glazers. Make no mistake, this opens a door for another massive financial payday for the Glazers and their partner Jim Ratcliffe. Whatever happens on the pitch, they know that being at the centre of making Manchester United the Wembley of the North massively increases the value of their business. And let's make no mistake, that's primarily what Manchester United is to our owners, is a business. The big question is, how are they going to fund building a new stadium? We all know the Glazers won't be using their own money, but I'm sure Ratcliffe has a plan. He's not become Britain's richest man by wasting time on projects he knows he can't deliver. Government backing for the Old Trafford regeneration, I'm certain, will unlock Ratcliffe's way forward. And there's no doubt in my mind that Ratcliffe and the Glazers will benefit enormously from one of the biggest regeneration projects ever undertaken in the United Kingdom. What fans want to know is, when will Manchester United Football Club benefit from this transformation? Making Old Trafford a massive cash machine, in theory, will give this football club the resources we need to be successful again. But how long will that take, and how much will the owners pay themselves in dividends when we're eventually making a profit again? Can we really trust these owners without a fan ownership model to hold them in check? I doubt it. It now seems clear that it's the stadium that comes first for Ratcliffe, and not his stated aim of making our football club great again. That's a bonus if it happens, but it's not the only way to make MUFC a commercial success. Ratcliffe knows our global support will fill a 100,000-seater stadium, especially when the area's regeneration includes a massive urban and commercial redevelopment. A lucrative regeneration that will partly evolve on land owned by the football club. Meanwhile, Ratcliffe's American partners believe that making ticket prices more in line with what sports fans pay in the United States will grow matchday revenues to record levels. Not to mention the extra revenues to be made from staging concerts and other events at an enlarged and modernised new Old Trafford. In the meantime, spending on the team is not the club's priority. I'd love to be proved wrong before this transfer window closes next week, and if not then, maybe Ineos will do their business in the summer. But we can all see that spending on the team currently depends on selling first, and that makes our academy graduates our biggest assets, because selling a homegrown youngster is pure profit, and they're not tied down by ridiculously high wages. It's clear that Ratcliffe's priority is not to spend big on giving Ruben Amorim new players to suit his system. Right here, right now, the football club is in a financial mess. And here are the reasons why Manchester United Football Club is currently in limbo. I think we're all starting to realise that this football club's cash flow is in a much worse position than many people are willing to admit. I'm concerned that it's so bad that this football club could face the next decade trying to recover, especially if that's how long it takes to build and pay for a new stadium. In the meantime, without major new investment, this football club is weighed down by crippling debt that has turned us into a selling club. The Glazers created this mess by running the football club into the ground so badly they should be facing criminal charges for the irresponsible way they've run the business. Let me put it this way. The law states that if a director or the board as a whole fails to act with due care, and as a result the corporation is in some way harmed, the careless director or directors can be held personally liable for the harm done. I believe the Glazers should be held accountable for what they've done to this football club, whether that's by a hopefully soon to be appointed football regulator, the Premier League or the government. The Glazers have serious questions to answer. But I'm not holding my breath, because billionaires have a way of avoiding the truth. Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have made things worse by rewarding the Glazers financially and by failing to tackle the biggest weight that's dragging this football club down. What's crippling Manchester United Football Club is the debt that now totals around £1 billion. When Ratcliffe's people talk about PSR and how the club's losses of £300 million over the past 3 years is forcing them to cut spending and put our academy kids up for sale, they are being disingenuous and not telling you the whole truth. The biggest handicap this football club is being weighed down by is the club's astronomical debts. When you factor in both the original debt the Glazers burdened the club with in the first place and the unpaid transfer fees we're now lumbered with, we're in hock to the tune of around £1 billion. That means we're spending over £60 million a year in interest alone, just to keep that debt from growing. That fact alone puts our football club in real jeopardy. But there's a solution. Clear that debt by an investment that converts the debt to shares in the football club, and we immediately remove any threat of breaking PSR rules. What Ratcliffe is not telling you is that he has the money to pay off that debt, but converting that debt to shares in the business will make Ratcliffe the majority shareholder. Whether that's being blocked by the Glazers or Ratcliffe himself choosing not to, we don't know. In the meantime, our football club is suffering badly. Our transfer activity is compromised by cash flow and the straitjacket of previous irresponsible decisions. Not to mention we sacked the guy we paid a fortune to bring in a sporting director when Ratcliffe got rid of Dan Ashworth. It's ironic that one of the best strikers in the Premier League this season is Alexander Isak, recruited by Dan Ashworth for Newcastle for £63 million. The year before, United paid £64 million up front for Rasmus Højlund. Frustratingly, Højlund is one player who's not improved since Ruben Amorim took charge, unlike Joshua Zirkzee, who has got better under Amorim. But both players are a long way short of how Isak is performing for Newcastle this season. Isak is just the type of striker United badly need right now. In the old days, United would swoop in and sign a player like Isak, as we did when he captured Andy Cole from the Geordies back in the 90s. But there's absolutely zero chance of this current United setup doing any business like that in this transfer window or any time soon. Gone are the days when we could sign a Cantona, a Rooney, a Ferdinand, a Van Persie, or any of the Premier League's top players. But we shouldn't be in this mess created by the Glazers and prolonged by Jim Ratcliffe. It just so happens that the £63 million Newcastle spent on Isak is almost exactly how much we're currently spending every year on servicing our debts. I can't stress more strongly how the burden of that debt is dragging down this football club. To put that into perspective, we've paid around £1 billion in interest since the Glazers leveraged debt on the club to buy Manchester United. How that was allowed to happen in the first place is one of the biggest scandals in football. What's compounded this whole shit show is how Ratcliffe has used his wealth to leverage himself into a position to now be running the football club. But instead of delivering what we thought he was promising the fans when he talked about putting the Manchester back in Manchester United, his strategy is ripping the soul out of this football club. It's no exaggeration when I tell you I receive daily messages from ex-players, club employees and fans telling me how they're being let down and embarrassed by Ratcliffe and his Ineos management team. For me, the biggest insult is how he's punishing fans, employees and former players for the club's gross mismanagement. And then we see the club blatantly acting as ticket touts last week when they targeted Glasgow Rangers fans by selling tickets for £99 to non-members. Do they think we're stupid? It's shameful and embarrassing. Clearly Ratcliffe and his people have no intention of investing what's needed and buying our way out of this mess, despite the fact they easily have the resources and the wealth to do so. That's in sharp contrast to Todd Boehly, who's transformed Chelsea by spending big and bringing new revenues into the club via creative sponsorship deals. Ratcliffe thinks he can fix things by stripping United spending to the actual bone and by squeezing fans and former players, but it's not working. We can all see how Jim Ratcliffe and his Ineos organisation are ripping the heart and soul out of this football club, from ticket price rises to job cuts, from letting down former players and the foundation to making our best academy graduates available for sale when we need bailing out of trouble. We already cashed in Scott McTominay to meet PSR requirements, while Garnacho, Manu and others are all available if the price is right. This mess is so bad we're now a selling club, and we can't even do that like other clubs do. Ironically, we're struggling to sell 1-8 Marcus Rashford because he's on such high wages. What I find disturbing is that the mainstream media are largely letting Jim Ratcliffe get away with his failure to do what he promised without any real scrutiny. There are certain journalists who are well briefed by Ineos and first with the news when stories break. In return, they're spinning the narrative the way Ratcliffe wants you to hear it. They're not fully exposing the irresponsible way this football club is being run. Few voices are shining a spotlight on what's really going on here and exposing the scandalous way the soul of this football club is being destroyed from within. There is still time for Ratcliffe to change course, of course, and invest the money this football club so badly needs to start rebuilding. But based on what I've seen so far, I'm not optimistic. Until the football club gets rid of that crippling debt, we're a basket case heading in the wrong direction. Meantime, Ruben Amorim is the man carrying the weight of fans' hopes and dreams. But I do fear he's in danger of drowning under the weight of a job that's much bigger than I think he realised. In my view, he made a big mistake when he labelled his team maybe the worst in our history. I hope he can repair the damage done and turn things around. We certainly saw a fighting spirit at Fulham, and that's a good thing, if we can keep that going. As I always say, the job of the head coach is to get the best out of the players we have. So far, there's clearly a lot of room for improvement, but I do live in hope.